Welcome back to the Daily Flash. I'm Andrea Jackson. The image of young adults living in a hookup culture with emotionally meaningless relationships might be a common theme in movies and daytime talk shows, but it does not seem to be the norm in real college life. That's according to a new study. The study is the first of its kind, actually, to look at early relationship development, or something also known as crushes. Researchers surveyed about 200 university students about their dating habits, their various likes and dislikes, and attraction to potential partners during a 7-month stretch. So what took researchers by surprise was that many of the important factors determining whether a crush fizzled out were the same things you would have seen in a committed relationship, meaning the supposed hookup culture actually looks a lot like people taking relationships for a test run. These factors included seeking out someone's presence as much as possible, feeling distressed when separated from them, and wanting to tell them about successes, physical attractiveness. The most commonly studied variable in the whole initial attraction literature was surprisingly weak, believe it or not.
You know, I think, we have the generation afterwards, somehow we have this higher morality or whatever we think, and it really necessarily isn't there. I think that even the next generation, Generation X, Y, whatever, wants to have a solid relationship. I think they're just taking longer to do it, which makes it, and that's the advice we always hear is don't, until you learn what you want out of life, then go look for the person that fulfills that.
Right, and the breakups with the hookups are very similar to the reasons why people who've been in long-term committed relationships also break up.
That's a very good point. All right.
I mean, when you think of a good relationship, when you think of one falling apart, it's usually the obvious. Maybe it's cheating on your partner, not being affectionate, avoiding intimacy. These are all well-known red flags that indicate all is not well within the relationship. So here's some of the more unusual ones. First up, stop trying to buy love. Grand gestures like a surprise weekend in Paris, fantastic, but it's the small daily acts of kindness that keep couples close.
Well, yeah, you set the bar too high. If you think
so
about
true.
It's something like, wow, you did this. Well, now you have to top it if you have that mentality.
Right.
And again, as to what you had just said, is that you need to make sure that you have consistency, maybe at a slower pace, will actually go in the long run.
If you go to Paris the first week you're dating, you're setting yourself up for failure.
Don't do it. It might sound fun, but it's not. Not getting enough sleep. Of course, numerous studies have shown that poor sleepers show less empathy. They got poor communication skills. Leave me alone. They also have poor judgment in their partner's emotions because
they're grouchy and they haven't had enough sleep.
100%. And do you want to talk when you're tired? No, not at all.
No. And sometimes the thoughts just don't come together.
Well, even when I get enough sleep, that's the case.
Getting married at the age of 23 could mean you have a 45% chance of divorcing and not spending enough time getting to know the partner first.
All right.
This is also known as the starter marriage for a lot of folks.
And when you start high school sweethearts, this happens a lot. And we were just talking about this the other day about how, you think you can change somebody, and you have to also realize you're going to change as well. And what you want right now, it's not what you're going to want when you're 40, 45 years old. And not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just that you haven't lived your life enough yet to be able to figure out what you want or who you are. And you might find that person just isn't compatible anymore because they move separate ways. I speak from experience of this. All right. Because of, according to another study, you should head down the aisle within the next decade if you're wanting to last the distance. For every year you're married after the age of 32, your risk of divorce actually goes up by 5%. Now that is interesting to me.
Really? Because I would think that as you get older, you would be willing to commit a little bit longer.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be so quick to just jump out and get a divorce.
You waited that long, and maybe
right?
that might be that you think, well, I'm waiting for this, the anticipation never gets there, and it wasn't what you expected, I guess. It's interesting to find out about that.
Now, when a couple claims they never argue, don't buy it.
No.
Obviously, if you're having constant rows about everything, your relationship could be in trouble, but you're better off having one argument every 2 or 3 weeks than none at all for months on end.
Because you're not expressing yourself and not talking. I would imagine that's what comes out of that. And I love how you said that, because they're lying. And I think it's important to have arguments. Just as I say it's important for the world to have different opinions, because that's how we grow. That's how we learn.
I also think it's good, too, if you've got kids, you need to fight, but you need to show kids how you fight and how you resolve a fight.
Resolution, exactly. All right, a certain amount of white lies are necessary to be polite, but it's lies by omission, not revealing important information because you weren't directly asked about it. That's the most unforgivable because there's no way to guarantee that it won't happen again. And then it also has that person second guessing, well, am I getting the whole story here? And then that changed the emotion of the situation.
Right, because once the trust is gone, forget it. And even a white lie can really erode trust
big time,
before
big
you know
time.
it. Lots of couples think only those on the brink of separating see a therapist. Not true.
No.
Couples who see a therapist at the first hint of a problem can solve a little bit more of their problems than those who separate. So that's the good news.
It's great to talk this out. You guys seeing a theme here? Talking out.
Communication.
Finally, having kids. Couples who were happy before they had kids appeared to be protected from most of the negative effects of having kids. But babies will not bring you any closer if you're not happy to start with. Having children to save your marriage.
No, not good.
It's scary to think about somebody would do that. I'm going to bring another human in this life to see if you and I will work out.
Right.
Believe me, it's really, really not good news at all. So these things just to consider. You might be in one of those situations, but either way, I think, as we said, just talking out should be able to help that.
Or move on and find the next one.
Or move on. Don't worry, you'll be a better person. We have more Daily Flash. We're moving on, but we're coming back to you with open arms.